Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Tuesday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing well out there this morning and having a wonderful start to your day and a great week out there so far. Here to bring you the latest information that we have on Tropical Storm Debby. Debby is still a tropical storm. The center of this storm is actually still over land, over portions of southeast Georgia, but we expect this to very, very slowly get back over the open waters off the coast of the southeast, where it will have a chance to re-strengthen, but it's bringing widespread impacts this morning, flash flooding. We had tornadoes last night across the South Carolina coastline. That'll continue to be a threat all day today. So the first thing we'll go over is what's going on with this system right now, the latest advisory from the National Hurricane Center. We'll zoom into this cone, which now extends well up into the northeast now. We'll go over the model guidance we have. We'll talk in great detail about the impacts on the way. We'll even compare and contrast a couple different scenarios depicted by these models. And I'm buying one particular model, so I'm going to have a timestamp on this video that just specifically talks about my personal take on this storm and which model I think is going to be correct, I guess you would say. So we'll speak on that. We're not going to speak much on steering currents or the conditions that could prevent or promote this to strengthen off the coast of the southeast. I think it's just important just to really discuss the impacts that we pretty much know are going to happen. We'll speak a little bit about it throughout the entire video. After we do that, we will speak on what's going to happen weather-wise across the entire lower 48, as there's some active weather ongoing today outside of Debby. A tornado risk up in the Ohio Valley. We got severe weather potential across the western U.S. A big trough is digging down that's going to potentially bring an early feel of fall as far south as the Gulf coastline. I mean, the southeast. This is a legit possibility that I've not been able to talk about because we've been talking so heavily on Debby for obvious reasons. But I will throw that a bone at the very end of the video and speak on it a little bit. So this will be a long one. So with all that being said, if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. There'll be timestamps up throughout the entire video for you guys to jump ahead to certain portions of the video you want to watch. And more importantly, if you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put those in the comments below. That's very important to me, and it's very important to others too. So let's get rocking and rolling. So this is what's going on with Tropical Storm Debby. We're just going to go straight to the actual radar. The center of the storm's right here over southeastern portions of Georgia, like I mentioned earlier. Obviously, this is rotating cyclonically. You got rain wrapping all the way back into central Georgia. Even though this is not very intense back in Georgia, the most intense portion of this storm is ongoing right now in the low country of South Carolina, which was pretty much what was expected with this system this morning. Now, we're getting some banding all the way up into Myrtle Beach, up in Wilmington, even some banding features all the way up off the coast of North Carolina. That's probably going to eventually move into the Outer Banks. So rain's getting all the way up to my house. I'm in Columbia, South Carolina. If you're wondering where I live, I'll report from here in central South Carolina. I live in a town called Lexington. So I'm getting rain right now from this tropical system, not too intense at my house. And the rain line's trying to creep all the way up to Rock Hill, trying to get into the PD of South Carolina, pretty much already has, and trying to sneak now up to like Fayetteville. But the most intense portion of this storm is ongoing right here. Like I mentioned, you see these banding features. This is the features that certainly could produce, obviously, flash flooding, especially if these outer bands continue to train over the same areas. But a tornado risk is legit. In fact, we're getting some rotation from these bands right off the coast of South Carolina that eventually can move inland over the next few hours. So this is a serious situation. Several inches of rain has already fell across the low country. I mean, over a foot to foot and a half, and additional rain is on the way. Catastrophic rainfall totals. So this is what's going on with the system right now. Even some banding still on the southern side of the system, kind of pivoting over the peninsula of Florida this morning. So a little bit of tropical storm activity down there too. So if we continue to move forward, this is the latest advisory that we have. Now there'll be another advisory here in about 30 to 45 minutes, but I don't expect this to change that much. It's a 45 mile per hour tropical storm. Could get knocked back down to a 40 mile per hour tropical storm in the next advisory. Center of the storm still right over southeastern portions of Georgia. And as of right now, it's around a 999 millibar low. Moving at about 7 miles per hour. Last night it was around 5 to 6. So, it's picking up a little bit of forward progress here, forward speed. But 7 miles per hour, I mean, a lot of us could probably jog, run, maybe faster than that. So it's definitely moving very slow, and it could move even slower over the next 48 hours. at some point. So this is where it's located right now. Now the actual cone, we'll take a look at Zoom Earth, which is kind of a combination between like Google Maps and the tropics. Is a fantastic thing for you guys to utilize. I mean, it's available to the public. Literally just type in Zoom Earth on Google or whatever searching thing that you have there, but it is awesome to use. It's easy to kind of toggle through. But the center of the storm's right here, expected to get off the coast of Georgia sometime this afternoon. 45 mile per hour tropical storm. Still 45 mile per hour tropical storm tonight, 2 a.m. Wednesday. 2 p.m. from 2 a.m. Wednesday, guys, tonight to 2 p.m. Wednesday tomorrow afternoon. It only moves this little bit of like real estate, ocean, I guess you would say in this case. It barely moves. And it strengthens a little bit to a 50 mile per hour tropical storm. The big question, guys, is how far off the coast does it get? The shelf waters, kind of right off the coastline, are definitely cooler than the waters of the Gulf Stream, way off the coastline, a few hundred miles. The Gulf Stream is kind of situated in this area right here. Let's see if I can draw on this real quick for you guys. Gulf Stream is kind of more so out here. So does the center of this system get way out here over the warm waters of the Gulf Stream that are like in the mid to upper 80s, maybe some areas getting close to 90 degrees as far as sea surface temperatures? That's a big question. If it does not, then it won't have enough basically warm, moist air and for this to kind of develop that warm, moist core again for the structure to improve. And if the structure improves, that would obviously allow it to take advantage of the atmosphere a little bit better, allow it to strengthen at a little bit more of a moderate pace. Dry air affected this storm to prevent this to really strengthen into a stronger hurricane before making landfall in Florida. This structure of this system is so, depleted, so kind of destroyed because of the land interaction. It's going to need some time over very warm waters to get going again. And right now we're thinking that it's not going to get far enough off the coast to really strengthen deeply. Still an outside chance this becomes a hurricane again, but right now we're thinking maybe just a strong tropical storm. And sure enough, from 2 p.m. Wednesday to 2 a.m. Thursday, strengthens back to a 60 mile per hour tropical storm, so getting stronger. And they're thinking it's going to make landfall as that sometime between 2 a.m. Thursday and 2 p.m. Thursday. So that would probably make landfall around early, I would say about mid to late morning, honestly, Thursday. And now they're thinking from like Georgetown to Charleston. The center of this cone was like almost all the way up to Myrtle Beach. Some model guidance has shifted a little bit further south and west. So now it wants this tropical storm, which is still at tropical storm status, the center of this storm, the center of the cone going between Columbia and Florence. So the cone is pushed a little bit further west. This will bring more impacts back to Columbia, back to Charlotte, Thursday. Okay, we still got a few days to go with this. And then, of course, if we extend this cone, this thing finally picks up some forward speed. So from 2 a.m. Friday to 2 a.m. Saturday, 24 hours, it goes from South Carolina to almost Maryland. Still tropical depression. This will bring widespread impacts from, Friday to Saturday up here. And then, look, 2 a.m. Saturday all the way to 2 a.m. Sunday, 24 hours, it starts to really pick up some speed. But, you got New York City, Boston, the entire I-95 corridors in this cone. And we got to watch out with Nova Scotia, eventually New Brunswick, Newfoundland with this. But it could re-strengthen into a post-tropical storm. A post-tropical cyclone is what they call it. Subtropical, extratropical. It just means it loses tropical characteristics because it gets too far north. And with the trough digging down the cooler air getting involved, this would most certainly lose its tropical characteristics. But man, we got a long ways to go with this system. The more traditional look at the cone here, and notice how the icons, the S here, is all bunched up. That tells us that this is going to be moving very slow. Not going to move a whole lot over the next few days. But once we get past Friday, this thing starts to pick up some forward speed. And of course, this entire area is in the cone over like a 24 to 36 hour period. But pretty wild stuff, guys, how slow this is going to be moving and then how fast it picks up forward speed as we get into this weekend. Now, current watches and warnings, we'll update this, see if this has changed at all. It has not. Kind of that dark red color right here, those are flash flood warnings, but you guys are in that dark, that dark red burgundy color. You guys have tropical storm warnings up too. It's just kind of underlapped by those flash flood warnings, but the actual the actual tropical storm warning color is more of this red color here, which is still ongoing in southeast Georgia. We now have tropical storm warnings up into Myrtle Beach. Tropical storm watch is more in this pink color here for like Wilmington, and just north of Wilmington. If you're wondering what these yellows are, that is tornado watches that is currently up for the tornado threat on the northeast and eastern quadrant of this tropical system, really for the northeast quadrant, because the eastern quadrant of this system is, a body of water off the coast of the southeast. So flood watches are up all the way to the Midlands and extend all the way up into North Carolina. So heat advisories in the orange, not talking about that right now. But if we're comparing model guidance, all right, this is the latest GFS. The GFS has stuck to its guns for about 2 or 3 days on what it thinks it's going to do. So we're going to initialize this for this evening. So this is Tuesday evening here in the next several hours tonight. Dinner time, might as well call it. All right. Center of the, and I have a much more broad look at this because I want to cover everybody in the eastern U.S. So I know this is a little bit smaller on our screen for the southeast, but hopefully you can see it well. You keep this going, we get into Tuesday morning. This is fully off the coast of Georgia and South Carolina. You notice that number begins to drop somewhat. Tells us this system is trying to slowly strengthen again. And 997 Wednesday, midday tomorrow. 995 Wednesday evening. And then 994, it goes exactly right back where it left the coastline. It goes back into that same area sometime Thursday morning as a 994 tropical storm. How strong, not sure. But the GFS has consistently showed this. And it is going to be absolutely wild if it ends up being right. And one thing I can tell you before I show you, European and Icon model guidance has done the same thing. It's dipped south. Not this far south, but it has came south. So I'll show you the Euro. Not going to show the Icon this time. I'm going to get away from that now because it has trended towards the GFS and the Euro, and that just tells me that it's kind of lost my respect for the storm, if you will. But GFS plows this back into Georgia Thursday morning as a tropical storm. This would make it where they would reissue tropical storm warnings up for the low country. Georgia, if they even ever drop them. This will bring widespread impacts once again, more so into like central Georgia. This will bring a ton of rain still into the Carolinas. This would bring even in some impacts into Atlanta. Then the rest of this system will continue to move over like the upstate of South Carolina. And one thing I want you to notice, guys, look at this kind of, basically there's like a trough digging down right here. I don't like that color at all. There's a trough digging down kind of right into here. I do not like that color. Come on, cooperate with me now. Sorry, I'm talking to my screen. Well, I'm technically talking to you guys, but trough is digging down right here. There's basically sort of I would say, an energy enhancement from this trough digging down, and then the associated energy of Debby. So we're getting this massive push of moisture for all the eastern U.S. states, all the way up to New England, between kind of both features here. And if you kind of keep this going, a lot of rain. I mean, well north and northeast of this system for, every state pretty much bordering the eastern U.S. And then the leftovers of this low continues to surge over Virginia, Friday night into Saturday morning. Look at this low right over PA. And then it begins to deepen before it even gets back off the coast of the northeast into a sub 1,000 millibar low Saturday evening. This would make for a very rough weekend of weather for the northeast. Gusty winds, heavy rain, flooding risk, and then we have to see what happens after that. So that's the GFS. Now the European, there is a new European model coming in right now, and I'll try to show you this at the portion of the video that's going to be called My Personal Opinion on what's going to happen. That's what the timestamp probably will be labeled. So I'll try to get you the 06Z Euro, but the 00Z Euro, 06Z is running right now, has not fully ran. Gets this back off the coast of Georgia this evening as a 997 millibar low. Starts to slowly deepen it. So by the time we're into Wednesday morning, tomorrow morning this time, 992 millibar low. Starting to get back to a moderate tropical storm. This is getting pretty far off the coastline of the southeast. If the Euro is correct, this does get into the Gulf Stream waters, where we'll have an opportunity to get its structure back. Okay? And then we get to a 991, 989, and then we get into a Wednesday evening. It's a 988 millibar low tropical storm and makes landfall as a 987, 988-ish millibar high-end tropical storm, maybe low-end Category 1 hurricane. I'm starting to think we're not going to get another hurricane out of this, but we'll have to see. Right into Charleston. And that has ticked south from some of the latest European models I've showed you. But watch what happens. It throws, and I'm going to get a closer look at this too. in that section of the video because I am favoring the euro. So I'm going to zoom into the euro in my personal opinion timestamp in this video. Okay, so stay tuned for that. But this throws in this nasty banding feature right back to Columbia, to Charlotte, almost to Augusta. This would bring widespread impacts across the Carolinas, and then it will take the remnants of this low through Virginia Friday night. We're getting into Saturday morning, and it takes this low all the way up into Quebec. The remnants of Debby all the way up into Quebec, and brings a lot of widespread rains to the northeast, gusty winds, maybe even a tornado threat, and then that's all she wrote. Okay. Now, if we look at the latest European ensemble guidance, you're going to see a bunch of L's creep up at the bottom of your screen. I got this really zoomed in for you. South Carolina, portions of North Carolina, and Georgia. Okay. Remember, the EPS, the European ensemble, makes up 51 members. So it's going to throw all these members on your screen that actually form, which is most of them. So you notice, if you look kind of at the bottom of your screen here, here's all the members getting off the coast of the southeast. This would be for Wednesday morning, tomorrow morning. Now watch what happens here. Okay, look how they all hook and make some sort of landfall late tomorrow night into Thursday morning. Almost all of them plow right back into the South Carolina coastline. You got a few to go up to southeast North Carolina, and then they all cruise through South Carolina and then up into North Carolina. But if this happens, I'm telling you, and guys, this storm is personal to me because it's affecting my home state in South Carolina. I consider all the Carolinas my home area, even North Carolina. So this is personal to me. If this happens, guys, Thursday will be the worst day in South Carolina. You know, today and tomorrow are going to be bad as it is. But as far as combining, maybe your most rain will fall today and tomorrow. But as far as combining rainfall that will be falling Thursday, and then you throw the winds that could push inland, saturated soil, down trees, Thursday has the potential to be the worst day. And that'll be probably the last day before this pulls out and then a cold front comes in. We'll talk about that at the end of the video. Okay? But all these L's cruise right towards, this isn't 50 tropical storms hitting South Carolina. This is on an ensemble and mean, but in this case, it throws all the members on your screen, all 51 members, or however many members are there. And then this plows up into North Carolina and heads on up the road. And yes, I got you covered for the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. And then look how all these members, some of them kind of go up into the Northeast. A lot of them kind of straddle the I-95 corridor. And then some of them get back off the coast of the Southeast or the Mid-Atlantic very quickly and then re-intensify. And then we have to watch our friends up here in Atlantic Canada sometime later this weekend into early next week. So that's the model guidance. Now, if we're talking about impacts, let's see if we have any new information. We don't. I want to reiterate this. You're gonna look at some of this and say, well, dang, the rainfall totals have dropped. Folks, this is the rainfall to come. So rainfall's already fell. I mean, like the Charleston Airport, you know, an area that's supposed to be ground zero for a catastrophic rainfall totals, has already picked up over 6 inches of rain, over a half a foot of rain in certain areas. So this is on top of what's already fell. So a broad look at this, and we're going to zoom into some awesome graphics for you folks. It's going to show town names and all that. The red area, kind of the more red area, that's 12 to 16 inches of additional rain. But look, remember I've been mentioning that I think southeast North Carolina rainfall totals were going to increase? Well, they have. And I'm not trying to blow smoke up my rear end or anything like that, but I just wanted to mention that. And, you know, that's kind of what's happening. That's just me looking at model guidance here and kind of observing things. But that burgundy color, that's 16 to 20 inches of additional rainfall on the way. Now, I mean, you're getting into Raleigh, 8 to 12 inches of rain. And now look up into Roanoke. Now, you see up here, up into the northeast, this is a combination between a cold front coming in and what's ever left over of Debby. So, I mean, a lot of rain. And we're going to zoom into that too. Now, let's zoom in even more to the Carolinas. This is between now and Sunday morning. Look at this area in the Sandhills and the southeastern portions of North Carolina, the PD of South Carolina. Anywhere from 15 to 17 inches of additional rainfall. Over a foot of rain coming from Myrtle Beach and up to Wilmington. Over into the Outer Banks, maybe not as much. But rainfall is trying to start to increase back into the Midlands and then back into Charlotte. If any of these models, if the European is correct, they're going to get rainfall a little bit further west. So for Columbia to Charlotte, up to like Greensboro, Winston-Salem, you want to watch for the uptick here at these western model runs. I mean, continue to be west is what I'm trying to say. But this is a lot of rain. Another 10 inches of additional rainfall is possible for Charleston. Catastrophic rainfall totals. Okay, and then we look a little, and then we kind of zoom into this area. Awesome graphic. It dropped a few hours ago, so it's the newest update. This is a little confusing, so I'm going to kind of mention a couple more household names in South Carolina. Rock Hill, 2 to 3 inches. Winnsboro, 4 to 6. Columbia, 6 to 8. I know it looks like it says Newberry 6 to 8, but that's really Columbia. Lawrence, Newberry. See, I'm getting confused. But Newberry more so 2 to 3. This could change. Aiken 4 to 6. Barnwell another 6 to 8. Orangeburg another 8 to 10. Moncks Corner another 10 to 15 inches of rain. Charleston 8 to 10. Georgetown 10 to 15. Myrtle Beach. Almost said a bad word. Myrtle Beach. Didn't I almost mess it? Didn't I call something like a fart over here in yesterday morning's video? Something about Myrtle Beach. I'm just tripping some words up. 10 to 15 inches of rain in Myrtle Beach. All right. Be serious. This is a serious situation. 10 to 15 inches of rain in Myrtle Beach. 10 to 15 in Florence. Sherrall, 10 to 15 inches of rain. Dillon, 10 to 15. I mean, the entire PD of South Carolina, folks. A lot of rain. Sumter, 10 to 15. I think I already said Columbia, 6 to 8. Now, another graphic up in North Carolina. I know this doesn't show all of North Carolina, so it doesn't help everybody else, out. But I hope you can see it pretty well. But they're calling for, between now and late Friday evening, 10 to 15 inches of rain now in Fayetteville. Clinton, 10 to 15. They're calling for 10 to 15 inches of rain now in Raleigh. I mean, a lot of rain. Greensboro, 6 to 8 inches of rain. This could increase up here in this region. Okay, hopefully you can see this pretty well. But if we go on up the road to my friends here in the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast, I mean, New York City could get over a half a foot of rain before it's all said and done. Could be a little bit of a gap here, but this could fill in. So hopefully you know where you are on the map, but I'm not going to try to mention everywhere, but D.C., Baltimore, 4 to 5 inches of rain. Boston could get 4 to 6. So this could change a little bit because this is on out ahead of us. Now, we're looking at the excessive rainfall outlook. Folks, I cannot reiterate this enough. When they have a pink area, and this is flash flood risk between now and the next 5 days. 5 days. When they have a pink area, that stands for a high risk of flash flooding, which means there's a 70% chance of flash flood guidance being exceeded within 25 miles in any given location. The flooding risk is already getting serious. It will continue to be extremely serious. It'll be life-threatening. It's comparable to the 2015 flood. It's going to be comparable to Florence. It's going to be comparable to some of these high-end flooding historical events over the last several years. Not trying to overhype it. I'm just being serious with you guys. Anytime they issue a high risk, this is super serious. Okay? So the chances of winds. Now, this is kind of being not talked about as much because of the catastrophic rainfall totals, historic rainfalls predicted. But this could be a much bigger storyline here in the next day or so. But of course, there is a 90 to 100% chance in this purple area in the low country of South Carolina to see tropical storm force winds. And this is increasing now up into like the eastern Midlands, the PD of South Carolina, where there's, a 30 to 40% chance of tropical storm force winds now. 40 mile per hour winds are higher. But you're starting to get this little nose kind of introduced up into the coastal areas of the Mid-Atlantic and southern New England now, where you do have a 5 to 10% chance of tropical storm force winds now. Okay, we have to watch how much this gets pushed into the Carolinas if something like the Euro actually happens. Okay, and if you're looking at the actual National Weather Service forecast to see if we actually have a new one here, and we do, so cool. You can tell that it favors the Euro. And which is what I favor, what I'm about to talk to you about here in a second. It favors the Euro. Says that the core of this system, which, by the way, is where your strongest winds are going to be, is going to go between Charleston, Georgetown, and Myrtle Beach. This is where you could have those 50 to 60, maybe 65, maybe 70 mile per hour wind gusts. Along with a saturated soil, you're going to have downed trees, and you're going to have significant issues. Now, the increase in these winds could get extended when confidence increases a little bit more into the PD, Midlands of South Carolina, especially if the core of this system does something like this and like that. Then you're going to get stronger winds in this corridor right into here. That's why, if I had to guess, for you folks who have kids, and I have kids, my little girls start school tomorrow, and I think school will be fine tomorrow. And places inland the Carolinas. The coastal regions, forget about it. I'm sure they've already canceled school if it starts today. But Thursday might be the big day of cancellations further inland in the Carolinas. I'm not going to say hold me to that. I made a shot last like Wednesday or Thursday saying expect widespread school closings this week. I was a very big risk. It ended up happening, thankfully, or I would have just got blasted on social media. But it just seems to always happen. It's pretty much an easy call. You know, things are a lot different than they were even when I was a kid. I know you are looking at me like, Mitch, you look like you're 20 years old. Well, I'm 32 actually, and they hardly ever canceled school for severe weather, even back when I was a kid. I mean, now they take extreme caution with certain mile per hour winds, and I'm very thankful for that because I have 2 little girls and I want them to be safe. And, you know, this week will just be a wild week. And for a lot of people, this is the first week of school. For my kids, it is. So storm surge has not increased. You know, that was one thing I was wrong on. I was expecting storm surge a day or two ago to really increase for the South Carolina coastline. So I'll admit when I'm wrong. Right now, they're just still going for 2 to 4 feet. We'll see if this increases, especially for the Myrtle Beach area, as, you know, if the center of the circulation, like if the low comes up right through here, then you're going to get, like, for example, if the low pressure right here kind of goes right into this area, and of course you have the cyclonic spin going like this, which means that your strongest winds is going to get pushed on the northeastern quadrant of this storm. Over here, the winds are getting pushed outward. On this side, the winds are getting pushed inland. So your worst storm surge will obviously be right here. So if they're going to increase this to like 4 to 6 feet of storm surge, it's probably going to be right here into this region. I think they'll increase it. So we'll have to watch for that. That's my call on storm surge. Now, let's give Mitch's take on what I think is going to happen. And now, this is not necessarily what I think is going to happen. I mean, it looks like the National Weather Service is kind of buying this too. Not saying they're following my lead. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I want to zoom into the scenario that's also one of the worst case scenarios, but is a scenario that has a good shot of happening. So we'll get a closer look at South Carolina here, and I got you guys covered in North Carolina too, so just hold tight with me. Just going to focus on South Carolina here and even Georgia. If the Euro is correct, all right, and let's actually see if we have a new run in. I think we do. It only goes out 42 hours, though. That is unfortunate. So, man, that is just not – that stinks. So we're right at the tail end of a new Euro. I'll try to go back to this at the tail end of the video, but I probably will forget like I always do. But anyways, we're going to start this for this evening. The low pressure is off the coast of Savannah here, center of low. Obviously, these banding features continue to hit the coastal regions of South Carolina very, very hard. Tornado risk, ongoing coastal flooding, freshwater, saltwater flooding. The bands are starting to get all the way up into Columbia, Augusta. You got to watch for any kind of stationary band that could set up right here, pivoting over the same areas. This is when rainfall could really pick up in the Midlands of South Carolina this evening. And then we get into tonight. There could be a lull, a little break in the Midlands of South Carolina. And, I mean, even in North Carolina, it could potentially even get a little bit more quiet along the coastal regions of South Carolina and North Carolina. And a lot of people are probably going to think that don't get frequent updates like, hey, man, this looks like it's over. This ain't nothing. But I'm telling you, this low is going to get well off the coast. And these banding features are going to continue to move inland. I think for some areas it won't stop. But as we're getting into tomorrow afternoon, this low will have an opportunity. This is when all eyes are going to be off the coast of the southeast tomorrow afternoon. This is around 5 p.m. Here's the low over here. This is getting into tomorrow evening. This is when the bands start to really get intense again, even up into North Carolina, South Carolina, and then this low strengthens to a 987 millibar low, and then we take it to 8 a.m. Thursday, and the latest Euro wants to make a landfall. It wants to make a landfall just north of Charleston as a 988 millibar high-end tropical storm, maybe a low-end Category 1 hurricane. Now, this is what I worry about, guys. You see this banding feature right in here? If something like that materializes, this is going to bring excessive rainfall to Florence to Columbia. And embedded in this banding feature off the Euro, you're going to have very strong winds too. This is when I think schools could really get canceled a little bit further inland into the Midlands of South Carolina. If something like this materializes, this is what you got to watch out for here. This banding feature that gets pushed inland. Okay, and if you keep this going, this is going to dump extremely heavy rain, 30, 40, maybe as much as 50 mile per hour winds. This banding feature, guys, gets all the way back down to the low country of South Carolina. This gets slung into Columbia, gets all the way almost up to Rock Hill. Well, it does, almost all the way up to the Greenville-Spartanburg area. brings significant winds. This is getting into like Thursday afternoon, Thursday evening, gets into the overnight hours. And finally, Friday morning, this begins to pull on out. Okay? That would be a worst case scenario, I think, for everybody. Now, if you look a little bit on up the road, okay, and look at like North Carolina and the rest of the eastern seaboard, here it comes. And let's back it up a little bit, okay? You see these areas in southeast North Carolina? You guys are getting some nasty conditions Thursday morning. There could be a little bit of a break, like here's Wednesday. I mean, you're still getting these outer bands moving in, but could be a little bit of a lull at some point. And then we get into Thursday, this heavy rain starting to push back in Thursday morning. And then this is when it could get pretty bad for North Carolina and South Carolina is Thursday. And then some of this rain is starting to push into Virginia, and then to keep this going, and then we're going to start to get a ton of rain Friday into Virginia, the southern apps, central apps, and then this continues to just quickly move at this point across areas of the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast in the Saturday morning, and then it heads on out. So let's see if we can capture, once again, the latest, and yeah, we got a little bit further out now. So the latest European, what does it show? All right, same thing, and we still only go out 57 hours. So it looks like it's not as strong. 991. Yeah, so it's a weaker storm, but it still makes landfall just north of Charleston. And let's see how much room we got. We can only go out another 6 hours. And it still brings some banding features back into Columbia. All right, this would bring a lot of heavy rain and a lot of impacts back to Columbia, back to Charlotte. So latest Euro, maybe not quite as bad, but still a scenario that would bring widespread impacts further inland into Thursday. It's just something we have to watch. So do you compare this center of this low pressure right here for the latest Euro to the one for the OOZ? That's not what we want to watch. And it's pretty much in the same area. I mean, it doesn't change. Maybe a tick further west. I keep just wanting to get this updated information. It always tears my nerves up when we lag a little bit. Yeah, so this would bring a nasty banding feature a little bit further north, like into Columbia, up to Rock Hill. I mean, up to like Monroe, Fayetteville. And this is just a scenario we have to watch with this wrapping in of moisture right here. So we got to watch these runs of the Euro and all model guidance. So if we look at the impacts, like if we look at something like what the Euro is showing, but let's look at the latest run off the European. This only goes out to about midday Thursday, unfortunately, but it dumps additional rainfall. If we kind of take this and look back at the OOZ Euro, if this is something that happens, then of course we got a long ways to go, folks. This is rainfall between now and Thursday morning. This really wants to bring, this wants to bring close to like 8 to 9 inches of rain into Columbia, Orangeburg, over 10 inches of rain. The rain doesn't look as bad if something like this happens for like southeast North Carolina. So I think that in general, the National Hurricane Center model guidance is still a little further north than what some of these models are showing. And there's a reason for that. So, they're the experts for a reason. But it's something we have to watch. And when you look at winds, if the OOZ ends up happening, European, then we could get 40 to 50, maybe 65 mile per hour wind gust well into South Carolina, along with saturated soils, down trees, on power lines, a lot of issues. The collapsing of roads. There's going to be a lot of issues. We got to watch these runs. You look at the latest 06Z. This only goes out 30 hours, so not even close. But we still just got to watch. We got to watch this and see what these models do in this area. But I am concerned, and I'm watching what the Euro does really, really like a hawk with this. There's also a tornado threat with this, guys. And listen, this could upgrade to a slight risk today. But now there's just a marginal risk along the South Carolina, North Carolina coastline for today. And this is for a tornado risk. In that green, that's where we do have a 2% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in any given location. This could upgrade to a 5. So definitely stay tuned for updates. And if you look at what the radar could potentially look like today, the thing we'll watch for as this low fully gets off the coast of South Carolina and Georgia is all these banding features right in here. For example, this is this afternoon. All these banding features that are getting pushed into the Carolina coastline, all these will cause excessive rainfall and they will cause a tornado threat. So if you go under a tornado warning, folks, along the eastern Carolinas, take it serious because it could come up on you fast and it's going to be rain wrapped, so you're not going to see it. It could be they're almost always very quick tornadoes, but man, they will come out of nowhere. I'm telling you, it'll come out of nowhere in like a blinding rain. You'll be chilling on the roadway, and then there it is. And there ain't a whole lot you can do about it except just sit tight and ride it through. So take these tornado warnings serious across the Carolina coastline and just inland. All these banding features could pose this is going to be like a 48-hour tornado risk, along with tropical storm force conditions with these bands and flooding along the Carolina coastline. And this continues, and then here comes the moisture kind of getting pushed back in. Now, I can tell you the HRRR model likes a more northerly scenario. Doesn't push all that action back into the Midlands of South Carolina. So there's just, we got to figure out all these models here. But I can tell you with the low-level jet on the east, the northeastern quadrant of this system, you see how I get this on motion, and you're getting this northerly motion right into here. Okay, and then you're getting this southerly motion from north to south into here. That's because it's rotating around the center of low pressure right down here. So everything on this side, that's your raging low-level jet coming out the south. This is fueling kinematically winds in the upper levels of the atmosphere. Is fueling this tornado threat, which happens. We call it the dirty side of these tropical systems. This is where you have the most significant impacts as far as normally as far as everything. But that changes depending on the structure of the storm. But you see how that wind flow in the low levels of the atmosphere is just surging into the coastline. That will fuel that tornado threat for the long haul, just about. I mean, over the next like 3 days. So, you look at the significant tornado. Well, yeah, you look at the significant tornado parameter with this, guys, and it's a tropical tornado threat does not ever show up that high end on the significant tornado parameter. But you see these splotches of color here. This is where we have 1s, 2s, and 3s on the significant tornado parameter. The higher the number, the better the ingredients for a tornado threat. If you hear my cat, it's meowing. That's Rocket meowing on the other side of the door. But let's keep this serious. For my regular viewers, you guys know that I got a cat occasionally that likes to meow very loudly at the door. But folks, please take this tornado risk serious along the Carolina coastline, because it is going to be serious. And it could increase. For example, we get into tomorrow, and it looks like it really increases for North Carolina potentially. So we have to continue to watch that. So that's all I got on the tropics. Now let's talk about what's going on across the rest of the lower 48. There's a lot of weather ongoing right now in the lower Michigan area. In fact, there's a tornado warning ongoing right now in southwest lower Michigan. We got rain ongoing in southern New England. Of course, that's your eyesore, Tropical Storm Debby spinning around. And we got areas of energy out into the northern Rockies, up here in Canada, British Columbia, Manitoba, Saskatchewan. There you go. I'm trying to use some big words, guys. But we got a lot of energy up here. Got a little energy across the Rockies. So that's what's going on right now. We look at watches, warnings, and advisories. The orange is heat advisories. The pink, excessive heat. The purple, excessive heat warnings. The pink, kind of like that hot pink color, that's red flag warnings. And of course, these are flood watches. And the green, we got all the tropical storm alerts down here in the southeast. Flood watches are up. Like in the New York City, Long Island area, New Jersey, southeast PA, southern Connecticut, for anticipation of a lot of rain on the way between a trough and the system, Debby on the way. High risk of flash flooding up for areas of South Carolina, southeast North Carolina, and still southeast Georgia, where historic rainfall will continue to add up. There's even a moderate risk of rainfall, of excessive rainfall for areas of the northeast, right here in southeast PA, New Jersey, New York City, areas of Long Island. So that's kind of another secondary area to watch. And we got a couple areas to watch out here. The red area means there's a 40% chance of flash flood guidance being exceeded. Now, it's an active day as far as severe weather, guys. I mean, you got the marginal risk here in the Carolinas, I've already mentioned. Slight risk here across the Ohio Valley, across PA, all the way to New Jersey. And then we got a slight risk across the northern Rockies. And then we got a slight risk down here in Arizona. That includes Phoenix. Tornado threat, 5% risk of a tornado from Cleveland over, all right, cool. Come on, let's get it right. 5% risk of a tornado in this brown area from Cleveland into just about Pittsburgh, western PA, We had a tornado in Buffalo yesterday, guys. I mean, if you live up in the Northeast, you probably heard about it. It went right through Buffalo. I mean, it wasn't like devastating or anything like that, like something you see in a movie, but it was a legit tornado. So, I mean, Cleveland, now you're in the crosshairs of this today. The wind threat, If you live in that yellow, that's a 15% risk and winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour. And then the hail threat is the highest in the northern Rockies and Montana, dry, cooler air aloft. If you live in any of those areas in Montana, Karen, if you're watching, she's a loyal viewer out of Montana. You definitely have a risk of severe weather today. 15% risk of hail, exceeding that 1 inch in diameter or larger. Now, the southeast, we've already talked about Tropical Storm Debby, but that's pretty much the only storyline in the southeast today. We just got to continue to watch these banding features across the Carolina coastline, tornado risk, a flash flooding risk, and then we're going to do it all over again tomorrow. Sorry if I keep itching my nose in the video. Well, it just itches, so I'm itching it. But up here in the northeast, including areas of the Ohio Valley, this shortwave trough will dive down off this cold front. This will bring a legit tornado risk across northern Ohio today. I mean, it's already producing in southwestern Michigan right now. But you see all these storms right here in PA. Look at this complex of storms. I mean, even if you live, folks, if you live in southern Ontario and you're tuning in, the further south you get into southern Ontario, like right up against the northern shoreline of Lake Erie, the bigger the severe weather risk will be early this afternoon. But you get all these storms into Pennsylvania, extreme southern New York this afternoon. Guys, damaging winds, a legit tornado risk in this entire corridor right here from northern Ohio to northern and central PA. And then you'll get some storms popping off in the New York City area, Long Island. Look at all these storms kind of riding the same corridor right into here. Okay, flooding threat really materializes right into here. So be aware of that, along with the tornado risk and the damaging wind risk. The severe weather risk is quite, I wouldn't call it an outbreak, but it's quite serious across Pennsylvania. I mean, let's go over the timeline here. For example, this is 10 a.m., 11 a.m., lunchtime, 1 p.m., 2 p.m., 3 p.m., 4 p.m. Look at these storms in Pennsylvania. Look at those storms in northern Ohio. Then we take it to about 7 p.m., very stormy evening in New York City. These storms will probably ooze all the way down into Philadelphia this evening, and a very rainy evening and late night for southern New England. This is going to continue as you continue to get kind of an uptake of moisture from the south from Tropical Storm Debby. But look at the updraft velocity swath on this. This is some alarming streaks right here in color. I mean, where you see these highlighted colors, this is where we can have spinning updrafts. Doesn't mean we're necessarily going to get a tornado, but if you live in lower Michigan, throughout the next several hours, I would say, the northern counties of Ohio into Pennsylvania, this is a concern. Damaging winds, possible. I mean, look at this streak here through PA, all the way to New York City. These storms will be rotating here, guys. And then, you look at the winds, and I will show this also. The winds will be serious, too. I mean, you could get 60, 70 mile per hour wind gusts in some of these storms today. So please take this serious. The south central U.S., not a whole lot to speak on. Weather's been pretty quiet here. Hope you guys are doing well. I know I haven't spoken on y'all much lately. Mary, hope you're doing all right. And everybody else that lives out here. But there's not a whole lot to speak on. It's quiet. It's very, very quiet. North central U.S., we'll have to continue to watch those storms that kind of trail through lower Michigan. Very active weather in that region throughout the next several hours. And then what happens this evening? Very nice day of weather once these storms get on out the way in lower Michigan. Cooler air diving down. You're getting a nice taste of fall. Cooler temperatures. It's very pleasant. There's just the weather quiets down. Stable air moves in, and just enjoy your nice little early season taste of fall or feel of fall out there. You can taste it too. You get out there and get you some pumpkin spice latte or something like that, if you know what I'm saying. Light a candle, taste the candle. I'm just kidding. Don't taste the candle. Anyways, I know I got me a nice fall candle lit right now. Something about tracking the tropics and having a fall candle lit, I don't know, it just does something for me. But a lot of moisture across the Dakotas that gets going tomorrow morning. We'll watch for that. But across the Rockies, of course, we're going to have a big complex of storms that gets going in southern half of Montana. So if you live in this area and you're tuning in, be aware of the hail threat and the tornado. I wouldn't say there's much of a tornado risk, but it's not a non-zero risk, I'll tell you that. But there will be a large hail threat, and then kind of in between this, there'll just be kind of scattered showers in Wyoming, Utah, Colorado, but then there could be some bigger storms down here in the southern half of Arizona today, from Phoenix down to Tucson. And so just be aware of that. A lot of energy up here in Montana, though, riding the northern flank of the ridge. Speaking of the ridge, you can tell where it is. I mean, the only thing that's saving us from intense heat in the southeast is cloud cover and rain from Debby. Look at all this heat to the north of Debby. I mean, temperatures are like in the well into the 90s into the Ohio Valley. But look at this boundary right in here, separating very hot, soupy, uncomfortable air with a fall-like air mass up here today. I mean, it feels like straight early fall up here, so enjoy it. But everybody south of that boundary is pretty much preheating out here. But, you know, out west, certainly hot. Nothing too crazy, though. Southwest is pretty hot, though. But, you know, the Northern Rockies, nothing too unbearable. But I want to tell you guys, there's a big trough digging down. This is already in the process of doing so. Of course, this is the remnants of Debby that will get kicked out of here because of this trough. But this trough digs down here. You see this big blob of blue. This is a low pressure and upper trough. This digs down, and with it brings cooler temperatures. So there's going to be some sort of cold front associated with this trough that's going to dig down here too. And behind this cold front, a punch of dry air digs down and makes it all the way to the southern sections of the U.S. It looks like it is. So look how this trough digs down here. And folks, this has a legit chance to bring a nice shot of fall air. Now, what I'm showing you are dew points. They're not temperatures. Don't think it's going to get down to like deep into the low 50s or something down to the Gulf Coast line. But if we back this up, this is for Thursday evening. You see this area in green, dew points in the 40s and 50s. And then look at the dew points in the 60s and 70s. Very rich tropical air from Debby. But look at these dew points. We're getting into Saturday morning. You're waking up to dew points across Arkansas, Tennessee, Kentucky, a good chunk of Alabama, Mississippi, and North Georgia. Dew points in the 50s. This is going to make you wake up on Saturday morning and just want to run up to Starbucks and get you a pumpkin spice latte, buy some fall candles, and pull out all your fall... Rocket, calm down, baby. And pull out all your fall decorations. This is going to be an incredible air mass, something I haven't had a chance to really talk about. And then this gets into the southeast, and by the time, we're in the Sunday morning, this is getting into my neck of the woods. It's getting all the way down to the Panhandle of Florida. Now, we don't know if this is going to be this far south, but if this happens, this is extremely early. Typically, this happens the first real fall cold front that kind of gives you some temperatures in the south in like the 60s, maybe upper 50s. It's typically around the first to second week of September. This would come almost a month early. This would be, and it seems like a tropical system just does something to the atmosphere, because it seems like we always have a nice cold front after a tropical system, but typically that happens in the September, more so in October. But man, if this happens, it's going to set up a phenomenal weekend of weather for a good chunk of the eastern U.S. Okay, so we'll continue to watch that. But of course, that's not going to stick around. We're in August, guys. We don't expect a full change over to fall from summer to fall, so don't expect this to stick around. But that's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all, and y'all have a wonderful and safe Tuesday.